Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the Newcomer Career Month. This is the second week that we are bringing another panel for you. And this Wednesday, we are going to discuss about logistics and supply chain. This is an event that's funded by the Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada and organized by Lutherwood. If you're not familiar with Lutherwood, Lutherwood is a not-for-profit based in the Waterloo region and also with an office in Guelph. We are actually part of the Guelph office, and we offer a program for newcomers called Newcomer Career Support. So in case you are a permanent resident, a convention refugee, please reach out to us in case you need some support for employment, if you're looking for employment. So this webinar today, we have our guests here that they are going to introduce themselves in a few. But just to give you a heads up, we have a 1 hour conversation today with them. They are going to be sharing their experience working the logistics and supply chain field. If you have any questions, there is an option for you on GoToWebinar to drop your questions. And Polly Proenza, my colleague Polly Proenza, is also here with us, and she'll be reading the questions by the end of this presentation, or she can even reply to you in private herself. Okay. So I'm gonna pass to the to Ming first to do his introductions. Ming, go ahead.
Well, you talk about Ming first. So my personal email address is mingfirst@gmail.com. Just by the way. Hi, everyone. Good morning. So my name is Ming Ni, and I'm currently working as a global sourcing leader for Suez Water Technologies and Solutions. Our company is the main water treatment company in the world. And prior to joining Suez, I worked in another company in Cambridge called Innovative Steam Technologies, which I had multiple roles, start from a junior buyer until the senior level in the supply chain. And before that, I had a small business for 2 years after landing to Canada from China in early 2000s. And yeah, that's pretty much all. So I want to mention, I also volunteer with our local project management institute. I'm the president for the chapter, and we are covering all the project professionals in Kitchener-Waterloo, Guelph, Cambridge. Thank you, Peter. Yes.
Thank you very much, Ming. Thanks. And Ming is leaving out some stuff too. So you should check out his LinkedIn profile, because one of the things that he has done is done extensive volunteerism with school boards and with crisis managements and various other social services, as well as giving back to the community. Like, he is exactly the kind of person that every Canadian should aspire to be. So Ming, I take my hat off to you. Thank you. So everybody, welcome. My name is Peter Hawkins. I'm the co-owner of Mellowhawk Logistics. We're an international freight forwarding company. We ship anything anywhere, is what we like to say. And I'm really delighted to be here because one of my passions is, of course, helping newcomers get their start so that you can all get jobs, pay taxes, and pay for my retirement. So I'm looking forward to that. So one of the things that came up with us in our company is when we started our company, we were struggling to find staff, and the best staff that we could find were people with no Canadian experience. They were people who understood what the world was, where things were. They understood geography and culture around the world. But as I started talking to people, I found out that they had terrible journeys. And I'm not talking about the physical journey to get from their home country to Canada. I am talking about the fact that when they were applying for jobs, they didn't understand the answers. They didn't understand the soft skill communications. They had great skills that they couldn't present. And so what I have decided to do is to eliminate all that nonsense so that there's some clarity. And so in my goal to help newcomers find jobs, I want to make sure that they're not stuck doing things that are in fact creating obstacles. That's my goal. Let's, clear things up, present your wonderful skills in a way that an employer can understand them. So, and as a decision maker, I see a lot of nonsense all the time. And rather than ignore it, I write back and say, that's wrong. Fix it. I'm still not going to hire you.
We are going to discuss about that as well. I just wanted to mention here the presence of Conal Vaughn, that is part of the IRCC, our funder. He's always helping us to provide the good service that we try hard to provide to our clients. So he's here always also watching this presentation. So okay, so let's get started. We have here two perspectives, very interesting. As I was talking to Peter and Ming before the presentation started, because Ming is a newcomer coming from China, building his career as a newcomer. Peter was mentioning about his, change his career, and now he's an owner of a logistic company. So we are going to have two perspectives here, very interesting, and hopefully to be for sure to be a rich debate. So first off, I'll ask Ming, what helped you get your first job in your field, and what helps to people to get hired in the first job in your organization, Peter? Oh, sorry, Ming.
So first is the soft skills. You have to demonstrate your communication skills, your problem solving skills, and also when I started my first job here, I actually wasn't sure what I should be doing, because I studied when I started first here, I started my own venture, import and export company, and because the cash flow issue or not of the understanding of the culture, business nature, environment, it didn't work well. So I actually studied the skill assessment with the like Canadian we call what's a new Canadian program, which is similar service as Luther doing today. So after the skill assessment, after the personality test, and in the end, I feel with the counselor, we decided, yeah, the supply chain will be a good fit for me. And then we start tailoring the resumes, focus on this field.
What about your company, Ming? When it comes to hiring, I don't know if you are in a position of hiring people, or if you participate in some in the process, if you are part of the process. If you could talk a little bit about what type of people your company look for.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, I've been doing lots of hirings, and I feel there are two type of criteria for a senior person and a junior person. So for the senior supply chain professionals, you definitely want to see this person as a leader, able to drive change. So which means you are adaptable, and you should be an entrepreneur to solve challenges, and you have good problem solving skills, and you have business acumen. You are commercially talented to convince people, and you have good interpersonal skills and communications, and you also expert to create value for the business. You take initiatives, and you are result driven. So this type of characters we want to see from the senior type of professional. And for the junior positions, you want to see they have good transferable skills, and they have relevant training. Or actually, another thing is a very positive attitude. This will determine if the hiring manager want to let you to try, even though you don't have prior experience.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I don't know what Peter's feel about that.
Peter, go ahead.
Well, it's funny because as a decision maker in my company, and I make the decisions of who gets hired, I want three things. Can you do the job? Do you have those hard skills? And invariably, foreign trained professionals have them. They have a higher degree of detail and attention to these skills. So that's number one. Number two, are you a hassle? Okay, that's the soft skills. Are you going to be a pain in the neck? And are you going to be a pain in the neck because I have to find ways to communicate with you? Do I have to find ways to have my staff communicate with you? Because I'm the only Canadian born person in my company. Everybody else is from somewhere else. So it's not just blue eyed Peter saying, do I like this or not? But it's the person from Honduras talking to the person from Vietnam, talking to the person from Bulgaria, and they all hate each other. And so, and they certainly hate their lunch. And then the third thing that I want is I want someone who can follow instructions. And but Ming is 100% right in that there's two levels of employment that you have to consider. There's the senior level and the junior level. And at the senior level, a decision maker, a leader. And how do you demonstrate that you're a leader? Volunteerism. If your volunteerism on your LinkedIn profile shows somebody who is really developing and strategizing and leading and helping in a new community, then you're absolutely a leader. On the junior side of things, did you do a survival job? Okay, my family has been in Canada for 300 years, and we're middle class, white, small town Canadians. And my father insisted we work. So in high school, my job was as a cleaner in a competing high school. I'm the only Canadian born person I know who ever worked as a cleaner, but every newcomer has. And so I know that experience. And what I want to stress is if you have a job, I already admire you. Okay? So whatever the job is. Now, it's not your career. I understand that, and it doesn't define you. But what I want in the junior roles, I want people who are willing to work and demonstrate that they're willing to work. In the senior roles, I want people who can make decisions and don't need to be double checked. Because one thing that has happened when I talk about following instructions, I'll say, do these 5 things and call me back. People do 2 things and call me back to say, am I doing it right? Well, the answer is no, you just failed. You're supposed to do 5 things. So, follow instruction. It's so important. But one disservice that happens when newcomers come to Canada is Canadians have a non-conflict way of speaking. And so what we do is we don't actually say what we think. And so everybody says, "Oh, you're so nice." No, we're not. We're actually we're not helping. And for instance, when I'm finishing a conversation, I say, "Thank you very much. Good luck." I don't want you to write anything else to me in an email exchange. And when you write more stuff, I'm thinking, I have to go and tell them, oh, but what I meant was the conversation is over, is what
Oh
I
yeah.
meant. Or for instance, if you go to a job interview and at the end of the interview, they say, wow, you're terrific. Thanks so much. I thought you were just marvelous. That's a no.
Uh-huh.
Okay. You did not get the job. Please don't wait for a call. It's not going to happen. The only
Mhm.
yes is I'm going to offer you a job.
Yeah.
Everything else is a no. And so and one more thing I want to comment because I like to talk is when you came here, you started a business. And what I love is the fact that have an entrepreneurial spirit, but you also thought, okay, if I can't find a job, I'm going to make a job. And that
Mhm.
actually happened to me as well, because my previous career was in publishing. And then when I lost my job, I was 40 years old, I was overpaid and suddenly looking for a new job. I had a settlement. My partner Arno said, let's start a freight forwarding company. He already had 20 years experience. And so we joined this company. And so I created this company. And my first experience with logistics and supply chain is as the owner of a company, and then having to learn everything. And as it is, I can barely ship a box, but boy, I can sign a check. And so that's that's where my skills are. But what happened is sometimes if you can't find a job, you do have to create a job. And in creating jobs, you also create opportunities for other people as well.
That's great. And I would like to mention something that make a comment on something that you mentioned about okay, if you're talking to someone that you know that is skilled international, a newcomer with the skills and everything, but is working as a cleaner, for example, that you value that attitude because it's the person who's trying to do something to put the food on the tables of his or her family. And I remember talking to the CEO of Denby in Guelph. We had a conversation about the mentorship program, and he said, listen, if I have an engineer coming to me to discuss about a job, and he's not working because he feels that he doesn't belong to McDonald's or something like that to work, and then I have another engineer that is working for McDonald's or Linamar that I know that are tough jobs, I value this guy here because I know that this person is going to get the job done. So it's really interesting to see this perspective from you, Peter, because I've heard this from someone else, and it's interesting to know that owners of companies think this way. So if people that are watching us now, they are doing this type of job, survivor jobs, whatever jobs, you have to keep in mind that these people are valuing your efforts. This is a good sign that you are a hardworking person, right? So this is a good thing.
But if I can add one thing,
Go
Carlos,
ahead.
I want to add one thing there too, is how to present that in your LinkedIn profile.
Oh yeah.
Your LinkedIn profile is about your career. It's not about the survival jobs. So, but what you do is in the third paragraph of your about essay, you tell about the survival jobs you did. And especially if you're going to school and working at the same time, you can juggle those projects. Essentially, you have transferable skills that demonstrate that you're a project manager. And so there's absolutely a place to put it in. It's you don't put it in terms of your career progression.
Yes.
Okay, if you're an engineer and you want work as an engineer and you have the skills of an engineer and you're allowed to work in Canada as an engineer, then we want it all about engineering.
Perfect. All right. So another question for you too. I will start with Peter. Is what type of training or certifications you could recommend, or if there is any, that you could recommend to people coming to Canada with international experience? Should they go back to school? Should they go for a kind of a credential to be more competitive? Is this something that is valuable for your company, for example, to say that they attended a specific school or they have a specific certification? Could you explain that?
Sure. So for supply chain and logistics, for us, I think it's actually an excellent idea to get extra certification, Canadian certification. So for instance, I would look at CIFA. The CIFA certificates are excellent. FIT, CITT, Supply
Yep.
Chain Canada. Those are all excellent. Excellent, excellent. They're different costs, different values, different focus. We understand that. I don't necessarily think you have to go back to college, although if you want to do that, you end up with a really level playing field because you're coming in, say you go to Centennial College and you do their supply chain program and you have 10 years experience back home, well, you've made a big jump ahead of everybody else, in my view. That said, if you have the experience and see you can do these things, still do your survival job, still do this stuff because it's all online, and pass the exams. Once you have that, there is a full understanding that you understand Canadian international shipping. And so, since you understand that, you've been introduced to the rules of Incoterms, of trucking rates, of all the different nuances that we have. It just makes it very, very easy. And so, I'm a big fan of going and getting more training. That said, I also am a big fan of getting your resume out there and getting your LinkedIn profile updated too. If you do not have a resume in the Canadian style and a LinkedIn profile that is selling you in the Canadian style, then you're nowhere. Okay, you're nowhere. Ming, what are your thoughts? What training do you need for
Well,
your career?
I have to agree to you. It's very important to have the Canadian certifications and additional trainings. And so you mentioned a couple of the certificates. They are more logistics focused.
Yeah.
And I like to add, for example, the Supply Chain Management Association. It's good for the purchasing procurement professional. And there's another association called APICS. I actually forget the full name. So APICS, APICS, and they are more focused on the production planning, project scheduling type of skills. So yeah, definitely it's important to add these certificates. And there's a lot of people like even before they start a career, they already becomes a member, and then they get to know people through the networking. And I myself, I did everything after I studied work for innovative STEAM technologies, and actually the employer very value all these certificates, and actually I got all my trainings were paid by my employer, so it was even better because I don't need to pay by myself.
Yeah, we pay for it too. If you don't have it when you come, we pay for it. Every person, even our receptionist, has the CIFA certificates. Everyone.
Wow. So Ming, could you explain a little bit about the type of typical jobs that you could call entry-level jobs offered in this field? You can mention um, your company, but you can also, mention other, like in a generic way. What are the typical entry-level jobs? And the question is mainly because sometimes, for example, for people that are, and this is another field, like I'm an accountant, okay, coming from Brazil, for example,
I
and
see.
then I have to take the CPA and all those things to be able to work as an accountant. So before that, I know that there are some jobs like a bookkeeping and accounting
Yeah,
clerk and
yeah,
things
yes.
like that. Does that exist also for supply chain and logistics?
Yeah, yeah. So for the I'm more top on this purchasing procurement. Now we have like there's a new no level position, like starting level position called data analysis. Now it's like the data is getting more important, and not the company start the data analysis to analyze what's the spending, how many suppliers we are dealing with. So that's a position that's pretty new position in the last few years. And then traditionally the junior buyers, buyer purchasing clerk, purchasing assistant, logistic coordinators, in a warehouse there's a material handlers. These
Mm-hmm.
are kind of entry level uh, roles to the supply chain. And yes, Peter, you anything to add?
You know what? When you hit on logistics coordinators, that primary that's not only our entry level, but that's also our senior level. It's the same role.
Well, actually, so
But
that's another thing. The position description is very different from one company to another. Yeah, so you had to look at exactly what the qualification they are saying. If they say you have to have 5 years, 5+ years of coordination experience in a logistics company, which means it's a senior.
yeah,
So
exactly. So in our roles, so for instance, we hired two people this week, and they're both logistics coordinators. One
Mm-hmm.
is actually part-time because she is a student, an international student, and during the school year, she's allowed to work 20 hours a week and then 40 hours on holidays. And so she is essentially a trainee for us,
Mm-hmm.
and she will be she's studying logistics. It's her career, it's her plans, and she is providing support for the 20 hours a week for another part of the team. We will she's only been here a week, but we'll likely spend about 3 or 4 months training her on all the things that we need her to do.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, she is so good that I'm going to hire her full time when
Mm-hmm.
she's done. I can see that. The second one is also she's terrific. She's from Vietnam, and um, she is a permanent resident here. She's hired full time. And again, she is also doing import export coordination. So, what that means, that role is either in the air department or in the ocean department, both imports to Canada and exports from Canada, but also things that don't enter Canada at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so she'll learn everything from Incoterms, waybills, making contacts, developing a network, understanding how to quote, how to price. One thing that happens in our company is when you get an incoming call, you actually handle that client, that shipment from start to finish all the way. And and so we have each group building up their own customer base.
Mm-hmm.
And um, so that's something that they find the customer loves it because they have somebody they can really rely on. They're not calling a bank of phone operators, and the individuals like it too because they're building relationships. And now, mind you, if you get somebody who's a pain in the neck, well, then they're they're
Yeah,
stuck.
that's true.
No one's
That's
going to take
true.
it away. Then, in terms of we'll have warehouse. A shipper receiver, that kind of role is also an entry level for us. Then the other thing we do is we do seasonal work. We do a lot of pick and pack seasonal stuff for Costco, Walmart. And when we do that, we'll have 20 people in the warehouse, and they're all students working in the 20 hours a week thing. And the job is mundane. It's stickering or putting pallets together or something like that. But it does give me a chance to assess them. And I have hired 4 people in the last 2 years from just the bank of people doing pick and pack. And
Hmm.
again, it's who is punctual, who is on time, who is friendly. And one other factor is who doesn't smell bad.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you, and okay, we're all kind of laughing, but I will tell you that if you're an adult and you don't wear deodorant, then you're not going to get a job. And if you do get a job, you're not going to get promoted. And I have a funny story that I'm going to share with you. So we had a guy who was in robotics at college, graduated first in his class back home, graduated first in his class here, created a robotics club for women. He's just a wonderful person, hard worker. No one would work with him. And when I went close, I realized why. I thought, oh, I know why no one will work with you. So I decided to make him my project. I grabbed another young guy from the office and we took him to the washroom and we showed him how to use stuff. We actually went out and bought him some clothes. Let me tell you something. Okay, here's a guy who was working part-time at a car wash and part-time at our place. And in 3 months, he was working at Bell Telephone making $75,000 a year because we cleaned him up. And
Wow.
he came back to my office and to my warehouse and worked every Saturday for a year to thank us. And
Wow.
just, and that was he had the skills, he had the ability, he had the communication ability. What he didn't have was understanding, because Canadians won't say anything bad about you. So he
Yeah.
didn't understand what the
That's a
problem
bad
was.
thing. Yeah.
And so, and it changed everything. It changed
Yeah.
his life.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want everybody to know, you go to a supermarket in Canada, nothing smells bad. Well, we're uptight about that stuff. So you got to be careful. Sorry,
Yeah.
off on a tangent. Back to you.
No, I think that's a very interesting comment because like as you just mentioned, Canadians are so polite as you said, and then at the end, I remember having a conversation back in the office, and it's me, for example, from Brazil. We have Polly from Cuba, and English is not my first language, and I always tell people, I said, listen, if I'm saying something wrong, because I'm always saying something wrong because I don't have, the language, it's not my mother tongue, please correct me. And then they say, no, you speak perfect. I say, I know that I don't. Please, you have to help me, or else I'll never improve. So that's, the negative side of being nice all the time. But you are totally right, Peter. Like as newcomers, it's always good to have this type of feedback. And it's interesting because you mentioned about the person using deodorant, for example, because one of the things that we say is like an example that I give during my intakes for mentorship is, for example, people using cologne. That's another thing, right? So deodorant is something, and cologne is something else. And here in Canada, I don't know why, because using cologne is very common in Brazil, but
Yeah.
here we have people that are allergic to cologne. So in our office, for example, and I remember working for the TDSB, we had a sign that was forbidden to use cologne because people were allergic. So if you go to an interview and you're using a strong cologne, for example, you might, not get the job because of that, right? So it's a detail that sometimes we need a heads up, otherwise we are going to miss the opportunities. But you are totally right. Um, so moving forward here, would you, Peter, starting with you, what are the common mistakes that people commit when they're applying for a job and being someone that is in a hiring position, like as a manager, as an owner of a company? What the typical mistakes that you see very often, and what would you talk about if you could talk about that?
Sure. I think the biggest mistake I see is the candidates do not professionalize themselves.
Mm.
They don't represent their skills in a way that the potential employer can understand. And you have to do it in a language. You have to spoon feed the employer and give them in a language. You may have some great expertise from your home experience, but if you have not conveyed that in a way that I can understand in the vocabulary that I have, then I'm going to find the person who can.
Mhm.
So I come back to make your resume in the Canadian style and understand what that is. And don't use white type on a blue background because all the automatic culling systems are not going to read that at all. Don't do
Mhm.
fancy formatting. It doesn't have to be fancy, it has to be detailed and accurate. Okay, your LinkedIn profile, make sure you've completed it. Background image, portrait image, contact information. Everybody gives their birthday and nobody gives an email. Well, with
Mhm.
your birthday, I can steal your identity and I still can't contact you. Okay, so I want everybody,
Yeah.
put your email in there. Write the about essay. Understand what it is. Understand what your own elevator pitch is. And make sure it's not 30 seconds, it's 5 seconds. My name is Peter Hawkins. I own an international logistics company. I help newcomers find jobs. Of course, it's not everything, but it's all that you need to know about me for this. Okay.
Mhm.
And so um, uh, make sure that I find people who work at Starbucks will go to great lengths to describe all the ins and outs when it's basically make coffee, serve coffee, please, customer. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what it is. We all
Yeah.
got it. And then
Mhm.
you'll have somebody who'll have 10 lines about what they did at Starbucks.
Yes.
And so that said, if you managed people, if you did scheduling, if you did payroll, then of course you got to stick that stuff in because those are transferable skills. But what
Mhm.
I really want to push back on are all those people who reach out and try to network, but they don't say anything. Or if I respond, they don't answer back. It's like they rang my doorbell and ran away. And I'm going to point a finger at Brazilians. Okay. Brazilians are collectors. Brazilians are collectors of names. You go to their Instagram, their Facebook, and their
Yes,
LinkedIn,
that's true.
they have always plus 500. They've got thousands of people. But that's not a network. Okay. A network is where you have made a real connection. So if you write to me, you have to write a note. And the note has a format. It's greet, compliment, ask for advice. So, dear Peter Hawkins, I love your work. I would like some advice on how to get a job in logistics. Okay, that's what it is. Then I'm going to respond. Oh, nice to hear from you, blah, blah, blah. And then you either say nothing, which then I delete you, or you say something and I help you. Okay, so you have to really, so I think the biggest mistakes that candidates do is they create obstacles. Okay.
Mhm.
And one thing that people say all the time, they'll say, and I'm going to be honest with you. Well, what I'm hearing is you are not honest with anyone else. So be careful what you say. Ming, what do you hear? What do you see when people come and what are the obstacles that you see?
Well, you cover very well that how to make a pitch, how to make it professional. I want to add is lots of people when they start looking for job, they have one resume and they apply to everything. I try to say let's totally avoid that because one job post coming with hundreds of resumes. So make sure each your resume is very well tailored to the job you are looking for. Otherwise, you would just waste your time. And another thing is it's better to let other people talk for you. You are a good candidate instead by yourself. So try to, Peter already mentioned that, try to do as much as networking and do the pitch. And let everybody know, spread out the word, do your own professional marketing. I'm looking for a job. That's what I'm good at, and please help. And you don't even know somebody all of a sudden hear about it or just to refer you and you get a job. Actually, I had a very recent experience. I volunteered for the chapter, and one of the volunteers for the chapter, the girl, she actually is a Brazilian too, and she graduated from the Conestoga College in the graphic designing, and she has been looking for job for several months and didn't have result. And then I happened to know that, and I was doing research on one of the new startup company in Waterloo, and I was totally looking for something else. Like I was looking for a board member profile, and then all of a sudden I saw, oh, they have an opening on their website. They're looking for graphic designer, and I just told Maria, and she applied, and she got a job. So it's such a,
Right.
yeah,
That's
something like
amazing.
that.
Yeah.
But that's networking. That's and not only that, that's networking where you're not just making introductions, you're actually doing research on her behalf. So, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a good thing. Like I remember back in Brazil when I was planning to come here, one of the I think I read in a blog or something, the person saying, listen, whatever opportunity you have to connect with people, go. If they invited you for the birthday of their dog, go. You never know who you're going to meet there, right? Because it's like you go for something just for, to have some fun, but that's like people are there to have some fun, but they have their roles, right? Like some of them are managers, whatever, and then you're just having a conversation, and then, you know what? I know about someone that is hiring this type of positions. Can you send me a resume? We never know, right? We have to be. I One of the phrases that I use on my workshop, LinkedIn workshop, is that from Seneca, that is opportunity. Luck is opportunity when opportunity meets preparation,
Hmm.
right? So when you are prepared and you are like carving the opportunities, you are there, you're exposing yourself. That's when things, like as Peter said, people reach out to him and they have the opportunity to have access to him because he's reading their message, but they are not prepared to sell themselves, to market themselves as professionals, so they're failing. So it's a combination of things, right? So I think Ming was right on point about the resume. This is one of the things that we recommend a lot. I would say even that it's better for you to aim for quality than quantity. I
Yeah.
remember going to an event here in Canada, my first year in Canada, and the was an HR manager. She was doing a presentation. She was asking, who here have applied for 10 jobs and didn't hear back from employer? Everybody. 50 jobs, everybody. 100 jobs, a bunch of people. And say, how do you expect a different result if you're doing the same thing? Something's wrong and you're not getting the results. You have to change, right?
Exactly.
So I think that what Ming just mentioned was on point about this tailoring your resume for the jobs that you're applying for. Um, so I have another question here about soft skills. You mentioned at the beginning about the importance of soft skills, and I would like you to starting with Peter, if you could explain how soft skills are important, especially when you are hiring someone. If you can talk about it.
Sure. I think one of the things about soft skills is everybody should be aware of whatever the stereotype is about their culture.
Hmm.
So if there is a stereotype, so for instance, if you're a man from the Middle East, there
Hmm.
is a stereotype about you. So the first thing you should do, I believe, when you're talking to whoever, is point out that you have worked in an international environment with many different viewpoints, with different genders, and you are happy to carry on and get the job done. And so what I think needs to happen, and that's just an example, and that's and I don't want to offend anybody from that area, but I have seen more and more people think, how will that person behave in my office? And I think
Hmm.
they'll be professional is the answer. They're going
Hmm.
to be totally professional. But as someone in this culture who comes to talk to, and you have to remember, the person that you're talking to doesn't have to be a blue-eyed Canadian. Okay,
Hmm.
it can be somebody from Nicaragua who is the human
Hmm.
resources person, and they're going to have their own implied bias. Okay, implicit
Hmm.
bias. So what I want to encourage everyone to do is to demonstrate their ability to work with other people. Okay,
Hmm.
that's what soft skills are. So if you can attack that head on, and you come in and you are you smell nice and clean, you're dressed professionally, you shake hands in the Canadian style, which is one shake with a smile. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, we're not doing anything. So right now, nobody's touching anybody. So I want to cry
Yeah,
on that.
that's true.
But then, and then in terms of soft skills, is you present yourself in a professional way. If you have your LinkedIn profile, your resume with keywords, a cover letter with no spelling mistakes, all of that shows me, oh, that person pays attention to detail. That person understands the brief. It understands what it is we're looking for and how we're measuring people. If you have, I saw this one person who had a LinkedIn thing, and her photograph, she was here, okay, and she was complaining that nobody would talk to her, and I thought, I can't even see you, you know, that's why I can't talk to you. And it struck me that she didn't understand what is needed there. And so really what happens is you want people who and you absolutely want to, if you have religious accommodation or disability accommodation or something like that, of course you do it. Of course, that's every business owner is obliged to make sure there is a positive and upbeat and relatively easy place to work. That said, I also want people with the right attitude, and that attitude is that they will be flexible, they adapt, they can work with others, they have a curiosity about others, and they have good manners. Okay, that they're nice to other people. Just because you have a bad day, you don't have to ruin somebody else's day. And
Right.
I try to lead by example, although I have some bad days. But and so, for instance, I make the joke that I change the toilet paper in the washroom, but in fact I do. I may own the company, but if there's something that needs to be done, I just do it, and I expect that from everyone else. Okay, I expect that from everybody else. So in terms of soft skills, you have to present your skills so that people expect it and can see it. Okay, that's really what it boils down to. Ming, do you have any little techniques or anything that you do to figure out?
Well, so yeah, addition to what you say, I think of course software is critical. Like our workplace needs collaboration, our workplace need leadership, innovation, agile, all need to be presented by team members, soft skills. And in addition to what you said, one thing we want to build our own reputation, because as soon as you enter into the field, you really feel people start knowing each other, and then it's a small world, so you have to do something consistently and make your reputation, and one day people will spread the word. Hopefully everything is positive about you.
Yep.
That's true. Ming, could you talk a little bit about something that is very, I think it's a challenge for the people that are new to Canada.
Yeah.
Some of them, they never face anything related to this. Other people, they blame this as the barrier that's preventing them from getting a job, is Canadian experience.
Mm.
So can you comment on that, like being a newcomer to Canada, if you had any problem, any issues with the Canadian experience? Sometimes we don't even know what Canadian experience is, because maybe it changed from one manager to the other,
Yes.
But can you comment on that, on Canadian experience? What is this for you, and if you had any problem with this challenge?
Yeah. So that's always a question surrounding for the newcomers. Actually, when I started earlier days in my in Canada, I also have this. We hear about all the Canadian experience all the time, and nowadays, after so many years in Canada, I kind of changed a little bit about the opinion on this. So I personally feel this misunderstanding of this the terminology Canadian experience. So now after so many years in Canada, I saw so many cases of people directly from other countries. They either transferred job from other country to Canada,
Hmm.
they came to Canada, and in very short time, 1 or 2 months, they landed a new professional job in Canada. So I don't think there's a huge barrier. You have to have Canadian experience. So I try to say that's a misunderstanding. So what you need is you have to understand the nature of the business, the terminology, the working place culture. This is what you know, what you need to know. If you don't know this, and you need to start talking to the professional in the field and to understand it, to getting closer to the terminology and to the understand the culture. So yeah, so I start don't liking this Canadian experience anymore, and instead you just need to talk to people, understand the workplace culture and what's the day look like, talk to them and understand what you are expecting, and when you apply for what you need to present. Yeah, actually you cover the gap between your experience and the workplace you are looking for.
That's great, Peter.
I agree 100% that it's the issue might be this workplace experience. And you'll hear things like, oh, you don't have Canadian experience, or you're not a fit. That's another one that I hear. I think the no Canadian experience thing has to be explored because it is well, actually, I think it's actually a crime or something to talk about it. But the fact is, I don't think employers are bad when I think they're lazy. And they don't want to articulate why the person's not going to work out for their company because they think the gap for workplace culture is too much or something like that, or they have someone else who's going to be better at it. And so they'll say something like, oh, well, you just don't have enough Canadian experience. But the Canadian experience is only required if you need Canadian certification for something. If you need the College of Physicians or if you need the College of Social Work or whatever it is, that's the only time Canadian experience matters. In logistics and supply chain, no Canadian experience is just fine. Okay, we're shipping around the world. That's, I want you to know what's going to happen in China. I want you to know what's going to happen in India. I want you to know what's going to happen in Brazil. I want you to know what's going to happen in Russia. I want you to know in Cuba. I want you to know how to ship things there. That's what I want. But what I also think is if you feel you're not getting the job and it's already been decided, then I think you can do something which is challenging but eye-opening. And the way you do it, if you can deal with a difficult subject in a gracious way, in a graceful way, then you might actually have a chance getting a thing. So if somebody says, well, I think I'm looking for somebody with more Canadian experience, and you can ask, what do you mean by that? Are you worried that I'm not going to fit in your workplace culture? Because I have worked in offices before, professional offices. I can do that. Are you worried that I don't have the training? Well, I have this training. Or are you a racist? Because that could be it. They only want to hire people who look like themselves. And so, and if you can, by challenging it, you've already lost the job, okay, but by challenging it, you might give an opportunity for the next person. And I do think every employer in the world should get some training so that they understand that the no Canadian experience thing is silly and it's nonsense, it's lazy. But I also think the candidate has to represent themselves in a way that shows that they are professional, that they are okay with the workplace culture, and the fact that no Canadian experience is just a non-issue. That's really what I want. And if somebody says, well, tell me about your Canadian experience, and you can say, by my resume, you know I don't have any. So let me tell you about my wonderful workplace experience in this industry. And I accomplished this, I did this detail, I worked under these challenging conditions. We didn't have the resources in our home country that you have now. And so I'm looking for the luxury of working here. And just, address it head on. But you need to be comfortable as a leader, you need to be comfortable with vocabulary, and you also need to understand, well, I think it's important to try to figure out what it is they want to know. Is it that they're lazy, or is it that they're racist?
Yeah, I think you mentioned something interesting, Peter. It's like selling yourself or marketing yourself in a way that first of all you have to understand that you don't have, let's say you don't have that experience in Canada, so you know that, and knowing that, how you address that, right? So I think that's exactly what you just said. Like I know that this can be a weakness, so how can I address in a way that I will be able to market myself and be competitive, right? So, okay, I don't have the Canadian experience, but let's talk about my experience. And then, and while you are explaining, of course, you're also demonstrating your soft skills, your ability to communicate and solve problems and everything, right? So what I believe, and I've seen this happening many times, is that sometimes you don't have all the technical requirements that the job is asking for, but because of your ability to communicate and demonstrate that you can get the job done, people say, you know what, this is a person that we should invest. He or she might not have the knowledge in a specific software, but we can train. But the soft skills and disability is hard to train someone, or the person has or doesn't, right? So that's a really interesting thing. And I want to ask you, Peter, if you could give an advice, like if you could pick one advice that you would consider the most important advice to someone starting their career in Canada, what would that be?
One.
One.
Okay. It would be to update your LinkedIn profile and complete it and make it professional. Okay. That's the one. Although that's going to get one A and one B and one C.
Sure. It's all yours.
No,
Can you explain why that's so important for you?
it is our professional platform. It is our network. It is how we go and look and check you out. Okay.
Mhm,
And how you presented that shows me how you're going to do the job. Did you
mhm,
complete all the fields? Are you technically savvy? Do you understand how the platform works? Because my job is technology, has technology. I need to know that you're familiar and you're comfortable with that. Do you do follow-up? Are you active on LinkedIn? All those things are
mhm,
important for me to show that you're an outgoing person who's willing to do customer service.
mhm,
Completing that profile properly means so much. It
mhm.
really does. Full
That's
stop.
interesting. Another thing about LinkedIn in Canada, okay, and this is again going back to what you mentioned about culture. Uh, it's interesting to see that in Canada, I can reach out to a CEO of a company, for example,
Yes.
introduce myself, and the person is going to accept you.
Yeah.
Like it's so interesting. In Brazil, from my experience, is like there is a level of people that you can't reach being just a simple person, an ordinary person. It's like you don't connect with CEOs because they only connect with other CEOs. There is this bubble, this barrier. And in here in Canada, it's interesting. You can reach out to a owner of a company, a CEO. I have the mayor of Waterloo in my network. I have the former mayor of Waterloo in my network, and I even scheduled a meeting with her, and she attended. I said,
Yes.
"What in the world? This would never happen in Brazil." You know what I mean? So it's very interesting to see how powerful this platform is, LinkedIn, and I always, especially if you are highly educated with years of experience, LinkedIn is the place to be if you wanna market yourself and get to know people and network with the right people, right? I
I
think this is one great advice.
I think I want to add to that with COVID, CEOs are trapped at home just as like everybody else is. And
Hmm.
so we no longer have the gatekeeper. If you come here, you have to talk to reception and talk to somebody else, and you never get to me. And in fact, I've already said, don't send them to me. Okay. But I will tell you on with LinkedIn, anybody can contact me. However, if you contacted me and you did not complete your LinkedIn, then I just think you're an idiot. Okay,
Yeah.
full stop. You know, I don't think you're. I don't think. Oh, that person doesn't know. I think no, that person is just an idiot.
Yeah.
Okay, because if you need to present to me how professional you are for me to take you seriously. Full stop.
Ming, what would be the one advice that for you would be the most important? We know that there are many advices, but if you could pick one and say, listen, give special attention to this.
So yeah, I strongly recommend networking because networking is the way one is multiple uh, formats of networking. You find a mentor, you join Luther network, you find people on the LinkedIn, or you talk to people in the work same field you want to get in. So you try to understand. So I strongly recommend networking, and also there's a big part you can try to network through volunteer works,
Mhm.
and you don't even know whose cousins and happen to know the company hiring somebody, things like that. So yeah, one thing that's networking for me.
Networking is
Any,
so important. Peter, go ahead.
no, Ming, any particular techniques? Like, is there anything? It's one thing to say, "Hi, I'm Peter, hire me." Do you have any preferred techniques when people reach out to you?
Oh, I would say you, like you, as you kind of mentioned, you present professionally, you get prepared. What you, what your target, you have the purpose and what's your vision, how to do that. You have prepared, you planned, and you have target steps to do the networking instead of just, hey, I'm Ming and I just want to talk about anything. No, you have some target and you try to drive the conversation to reach some of your goals.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
I agree.
our our supervisor often says like some people they use the technique spray and pray, right? So it's like a boom to shooting everywhere and pray to see if something is gonna happen. And it's not like that, right? You have to focus on quality as Ming just mentioned, like prepare yourself, and if you value that connection, if that connection is important, introduce yourself, say why, be praiseful, right? So this is why you're connecting. So this is extremely important. But it's interesting that Ming mentioned networking, but at the end of the day, it's like LinkedIn covers also the networking piece. So this is something that people have to have in mind. Like a networking is something extremely important here in Canada. I'll give you an example. One of our former clients, she was attending our LinkedIn session, and one of the things I said, well, prepare your profile first, and then start to connect with people from your field, introduce yourself, and all those things. And she was building her, like a network on LinkedIn, and was interesting because she connected with someone from Honeywell,
Hmm.
based in Cambridge, and she was a scheduler. I think that's the name of the profession. I think it's from logistics. And the first thing that the person will do before accepting your invitation is to read your profile, and that's what he did. And he said, wow, this is exactly what we're looking for. And he reached out to her, said, hey, we have an opportunity here for you, like if you are interested, come for the interview. And she went for the interview and got the job.
Wonderful.
Just networking. And it's interesting, it's preparation and opportunity, right? We are finishing our chat here, but I want to ask you a last question. If you can be very brief. I don't know if we have. I've seen here that Paul is being answering some questions of the audience, but I want to ask you something. If you can be brief on this on the answer, but it's basically if you had an advice to give to your younger self
Hmm.
working in Canada, what that would be, that advice. Peter.
Do you know what? It would be pay more attention to how I professionalize myself and how I
Hmm.
represented myself. That's really what it is. I would spend much more time making sure that I looked the part, that I had the expertise, and that I presented all of that stuff. And I'm going to stick one more thing in there. I'm going to tell the younger self to go to my LinkedIn page and read the article that I have of 14 tips. Okay. It takes 15 minutes, and it'll change your life. Okay. So just that's what I would say. Ming?
Peter, there wasn't a LinkedIn at your younger age.
Yeah. No, unfortunately, there weren't even cell phones in my younger age.
That's true. Ming, what would be the advice
So
to,
I would
I
say,
wouldn't say the younger self, but your version of the Canadian younger self, like if you
yeah,
can
so
say
like
that.
for the newcomers, believe yourself and be confident of your skills is transferable to Canada, and you don't need to start from scratch. Yeah.
Hmm. Great, Polly. Do we have any questions? I've seen here that you've been replying to people. I don't know if there is, I've seen that people are asking about certifications and things like
Right.
that, but I don't know if you already got the answers for them.
Well, I just wanted to confirm with Peter that the certification he mentioned that most people at your company have was CIFA. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Correct. The Canadian International Freight Forwarders Association certificates. And so
Okay.
CIFFA, and you can do them
Right.
online. And
Okay.
but there are many others too that
Mhm.
are also excellent. We promote that one because I sit on the board. That's why we promote that one.
Paulie, do you have any
Great.
questions?
Yes, we have another specific question from an international student. They're an international student in supply chain management, ERP, with 15 years experience in engineering, logistics, and procurement. They're looking for co-op opportunities for the coming January-April term. And up to now, they're finding not many companies are opened to having internships. So would you have any suggestions for students to land internships? And as a follow-up, what would be typical ideal positions for a student to gain skills and knowledge in supply chain management?
Is that for Ming or for me?
You can start, Peter,
Well,
and then
let
we
me
go
say
to
something about that. I missed which school he's attending, but I know from my prior experience, for example, Conestoga College has a supply chain management diploma, and their students, it's like short of demand for the internship. So it was very, very like basically every student was able to get a pretty good, decent intern experience. So connect with the school, these career center, and also being specific when you reach out to the employers about talking about the internship, and they do have these government support by to hire the intern students. Yeah.
Peter.
And I find a lot of students don't actually use the resources at the schools. We have had interns from Conestoga, and we've had, from Seneca, George Brown, wherever. And it is you go to your school, make sure that you have exhausted their resources, make sure that in your networking and you're reaching out to people that you have very clear what it is you want to do. One thing that's happened though is because we have so little in-office stuff, it's been harder to take interns because I can't supervise an intern who is home, and I can't give them stuff that has proprietary documents.
Mhm.
So it has hurt. This COVID situation has absolutely hurt the co-op situation. Um, our interns, we pay them. It is, to be honest with you, it is a fantastic opportunity to work for us. That said, I am booked until June of next year. I will tell you, like first of all, we don't take very many, and second, everybody knows about us. So where would you look? I would look at FedEx, Purolator, DHL. They hire large numbers of interns, and it just might be data entry, but it would still be a experience and working in a Canadian office. And I think that's probably the way to go, the way to start. Something else, you could also volunteer for different chambers of commerce, and that at least will give you some exposure to international trade, and they will do remote interns. So the Brazil Canada Chamber of Commerce, of which I'm the co-chair, we do 5 interns every term, unpaid.
Great.
Unpaid.
Paulie, do we have any other questions?
No, those were the main questions we got.
All right, so we are finishing our pleasant chat here with Peter and Ming. So I'd like to thank you both for coming today and share your experience, your point of views. It was really interesting to have, someone that is new to Canada working in the field, and someone is a Canadian also sharing the perspective of working with newcomers. I think it was extremely valuable. I don't know if you wanna say something now so we can wrap up this conversation. Peter, go ahead.
No, these webinars are so invaluable. They really are. They're so important. And I commend you folks for doing the work, and it was my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Ming.
Yeah, same. My very pleasure to be here. And anybody, if you want further advice, please feel free to reach out. And thank you.
All right, so we are finishing, we're ending our presentation here. Hopefully you had a good time and it was informative. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us at Lutherwood. Again, if you're a newcomer, if you're a permanent resident, if you are a convention refugee, if you're a citizen as well, we can help you. Yes, so that's it. So have a good day and good luck on your job search. Okay, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Carlos, thank you very much.